Dr. Eric Kelly III and a host of phenomenal speakers from all around the globe for this 7-day virtual event that you don't want to miss.
The mission of the Black Business Expo is to raise scholarship money from kids all the way from high school all the way from college. The Black Business Olympics is one of the largest Black business showcases in the world. It is an opportunity for businesses and companies to showcase their businesses globally. We are going to be giving away laptops up to $5,000 away to students. Again, I'm Olivia Appleberry, the founder of 2 Cents Finance and one of the speakers for the expo. I am so excited to see you there. For more info, go to www.blackbusinessexpousa.com or call 919-308-9090 and hope to see you there.
I am Black business. From the moment I wake until the time I sleep. Yes, I am Black business. I am Black business. Tell me, are you Black business? I am Black business. Do you support Black businesses? Listen, I support Black business because I am Black business. Black Business Expo, one of the largest business showcases in the history of Black business in the world. The world! Sign up today at www.blackbusinessexpousa.com or call 919-308-9090. I am Black business.
I am Black business. From the moment I wake until the time I sleep, I am Black business. I am Black business. Are you Black business? I am Black business. Do you support Black businesses? I support Black business because I am Black business. Black Business Expo, one of the largest business showcases in the history of Black America in North Carolina. Sign up today at www.blackbusinessexpousa.com or call 919-380-9090. I am Black business. I am Black business. From the moment I wake until the time I sleep, I am Black business. I am Black business. Are you Black business? I am Black business. Do you support Black businesses? I support Black business because I am Black business. Black Business Expo, one of the largest business showcases in the history of Black America in North Carolina. Sign up today at www.blackbusinessexpousa.com or call 919-380-9090. I am Black business. I am Black business. From the moment I wake until the time I sleep, I am Black business. I am Black business. Are you Black business? I am Black business. Do you support Black businesses? I support Black business because I am Black business. Black Business Expo, one of the largest business showcases in the history of Black America in North Carolina. Sign up today at www.blackbusinessexpousa.com or call 919-380-9090. I am Black business.
Dr. Eric Kelly III and a host of phenomenal speakers from all around the globe for this 7-day virtual event that you don't want to miss.
The mission of the Black Business Expo is to raise scholarship money from kids all the way from high school, all the way from college. The Black Business Olympics is one of the largest Black business showcases in the world. It is an opportunity for businesses and companies to showcase their businesses globally. We are going to be giving away laptops up to $5,000 away to students. Again, I'm Olivia Appleberry, the founder of 2 Cents Finance and one of the speakers for the expo. I am so excited to see you there. For more info, go to www.blackbusinessexpousa.com or call 919-308-9090 and hope to see you there.
I am Black business. From the moment I wake until the time I sleep. Yes, I am Black business. I am Black business. Tell me, are you Black business? I am Black business. Do you support Black businesses? Listen, I support Black business because I am Black business. Black Business Expo, one of the largest business showcases in the history of Black business in the world.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. It's Keith Smith. Thank you to Dr. Eric Kelly III. Thank you to Grant for helping to put this together. Everyone that's involved with the Black Business Network. So like I said, my name is Keith Smith, and I'm a registered representative of Equifinancial, which is a FINRA registered broker-dealer, completely minority owned. We're registered in 38 different states across the US, and we're based here in Miami, Florida, where it's typically kind of sunny, but today it's not so much. But it's that time of year where it's starting to rain on us. Anyways, today I'm going to be talking about fintech and the future of banking. And I personally have spent the past 3 years or so consulting in the fintech space. And I'm the founder of Wavelink, which is a consulting company where we help others understand what's happening in fintech, what's happening specifically even in Web3, distributed ledger technology, and we help them to build solutions to address some of the opportunities there. So to really talk about fintech, I point out often that the word is very broad and it doesn't really say a whole lot. And when we really look at the definition of fintech, right, there's not really a solid definition out there. So to start talking about fintech in the future of banking, I want to first spend some time to talk about what is fintech, and then to look at some of the history of fintech to gather some context around what exactly is happening today and what makes that different from what's happening in the past. Because if we really, I'll give you an academic definition of finance, right? Because we've got two words. Fintech is finance and technology in one word. So when we look at finance, I'll give you an academic definition. It is the study and discipline of money, currency, and capital assets. All right, so if we look at that definition and break it down even further, finance, right, being the study and discipline of money, currency, and capital assets, that's already a lot, right? So what is money? And I think today we've seen a lot of talk about what is money. It's becoming a topic that is more common. People are caring about what is money when you look at things like distributed ledger technology and specifically blockchain and Bitcoin, right? We've been asking ourselves, what is Bitcoin? How does Bitcoin have any value? And if Bitcoin has value, then, what about my dollars in my bank account or the dollars that I have under my mattress, right? So before we get too deep, I'll back up and talk about what is the definition of technology. And in an academic sense, the application of scientific knowledge to the practical aims of human life is an academic definition of technology. So we're taking scientific knowledge and we are applying it to the aims of human life. All right. So the reason I wanted to backpedal and talk about technology is because when we look at finance and we break down the concept of money, money itself is a type of technology that we've used throughout time as a way to communicate with one another about our values, right? So when we look at just that first layer of finance, money itself, right, is this concept of how do we value things? How do we have a means for trade? How do we have a means for measuring, right, some things that we've also been able to build over time and the value that that means to society and to those around us? And, how can we use that to better create relationships with one another as well, so that everyone is benefiting and creating for each other for the benefit of one another. So the next layer of that definition is currency itself, right? So currency, we can look at it as really sort of this transfer of things like money, right? We can talk about fungible types of currency, right? So if I have $1 and you have $1 and we trade, right? Are we gonna have a fight? Hopefully not. And what that means is, if you have a $5 bill and another $5 bill, we all understand that standard value of what that note is worth. And being able to have that obviously allows us to trade in a much more effective manner. Now, if you look at, for instance, a $5 bill here in America and a $5 or £5 note in the United Kingdom, you can't trade those two things in the same exact way. There's a difference in how they're used. There's a difference in how they're valued and the different systems that they're used within. And this is just me really like spending some time getting a background on like why money itself and currency itself is a technology in its own. Digging deeper into what is finance, right? We've got three major branches of finance that we are interacting with on a daily basis. There's public finance, where if we talk about fintech and one of the biggest trends that's happening there, I would say it's the CBDC, the central bank digital currency. We have the second layer of finance, which is corporate finance. If you think about in the corporate world, you've got businesses, they have treasuries, they have lots of money that they have to manage, and they have to make decisions with how to use that money, how to invest that money, looking down the line into the future, how can they use their money, right, to sustain the life of the business. One of the biggest trends that we're seeing there has to do with cross-border payments, right, and globalizing our payment system and our monetary systems. Obviously, as things have gone digital, it's just been a lot easier. And at the same time, cross-border payments and cross-border transactions have their own sets of challenges that pretty easily segue into liquidity solutions. So one of the most common concepts that comes up in cross-border finance is the concept of a nostro-vostro account. And what this has to do is with international banks holding reserves of currency that they can use to be able to offset the risk of accepting a payment from another bank in a different country. I'm not going to go deep into that today. But cross-border payments and liquidity solutions, allowing banks to take some of that money that they're holding in reserves to settle international payments, to be able to actually use that money, right, more effectively. Maybe they can lend it out to someone. Maybe they can use it to go buy things of their own, and things of that nature are one of the biggest trends in corporate finance. And then if we go now to the next layer, we've got personal finance. And I think one of the biggest trends that we're seeing there is robo-advising. So essentially, in the past, we've continued to go to people to manage our finances as an individual. I also have a life that I need to look at the future of, and money has a relationship with what the future of my life is going to look like, right? So how can I effectively use my resources that I have, the income that I have, and whatever assets that I may have to be able to create a path that looks clean or that aligns with my goals as an individual? So one of the biggest trends there is that we've been able to really systematize a lot of what's happening there. There's usually only so many different variables that we need to account for an individual. And robo-advising is something that's picking up a lot. And that's one of the bigger trends there. So central bank digital currencies, cross-border payments and liquidity solutions, and robo-advising, I think, are some of the largest trends that we're seeing across the board. Now, to dive in a little bit, we're basically backing up again. Let's look at a little bit of what fintech has looked like in the past. All right, so now we've understood, right? Money itself and the way that it has evolved over time has been an important aspect of fintech, right? So fintech is a term that's a buzzword now, but it hasn't necessarily been something that's brand new to the marketplace. People used to use cowrie shells, right? Rocks to be able to account for what someone within a network or within a society rather owned, right? So as that's evolved, we got into private banking systems that had their own ways of writing notes to individuals and lending money to people and saying and keeping accounts of what it is that someone owns, what someone has in deposit with that bank. We then moved into a central banking system, right, in 1913, when the Federal Reserve was established, which changed the relationship and standardized, first off, right, what the accounting systems really look like from the terms of whose money, right, is whose money and what is money. The Federal Reserve stepped in and kind of created the standard of what money meant, because each and every individual bank had their own forms of these accounting mechanisms and their own ledgers and their own money, essentially. And now we're at a place where what we're seeing in the world of money is that we've actually potentially started to stratify again, right? And the way that this has happened is, first off, you've got different central banks around the world. So that already changed, right? All right, we can't have one money system to determine how everyone interacts, which, essentially was always happening at a more granular level. Each community had their own money. So now what we're seeing is technically all of these different currencies have had, all right, we've gotten to the point where we've got a central monetary authority about currency within each country. But now the internet has sort of potentially diverged where there's internet native currencies that are happening, right? And those internet native currencies are also now existing in their own silos that are independent of any certain particular jurisdiction, right? I'm not going to go too deep into the digital currencies, but for the sense of just conceptualizing, right, what is happening with money, every central bank around the world has some sort of a digital currency, right? Like most of us are using digital currency, digital payments in our daily lives. So now what we may be seeing is that the internet itself is actually going to become the new payment system that is universal, all right? That we can now take a payment or a dollar or a pound that exists in these different ecosystems and trade them a little bit more unilaterally across one platform of the internet, all right? So that's kind of been some of the evolution of money, all right? So now let's talk about the different ways that we've been transferring money and the way that we've been interacting with money. So we've got the ATM, right, is another thing that happened in the past that was a really big deal. I had a bank account at a physical place in the world, and now I could deposit money in one place and I could go retrieve it somewhere else. Another thing, same thing with credit cards, debit cards, things like this, being able to swipe, right, and have access to your currency without having to be in any particular physical location or having any particular physical note in your hand. And then we got into things like mobile banking. All right, I'm going to digital banking and then mobile banking, right? two separate things, although the adoption of the mobile phone and mobile technology happened so fast that we really didn't have to process the difference between digital banking and mobile banking. Moving forward, I want to just touch on fintech in the terms of what we really see it as today. And we see it in the news, we see it in our reports and in things that are happening in mainstream finance. What's happening? So McKinsey published a report in 2021, I believe it was, talking about some of the largest trends that are happening in fintech today. And what's interesting is, once again, we zoom out, finance and technology, very broad terms. So when we look at everything that's happening in technology, it essentially is going to affect finance in some way or another. So some of the biggest trends that McKinsey pointed out was the use of artificial intelligence. All right, so being able to use things like robo-advisors in personal finance, but also really in corporate finance, if we can create these models, right, that simulate certain phenomena, certain scenarios, right, then we can always have some sort of assistance of an artificial intelligence to help us make decisions about how we're using money in a public way, in a private corporate way, and in our personal lives as well. Another big trend that McKinsey points out is blockchain, which I love to zoom out and call distributed ledger technology, because blockchain is simply a very small subset of that technology. And another thing that McKinsey points out is cloud technology, which I really loved this point, because what we've seen with the cloud has been one of those things that none of us have really seen unless we're in that space. But the scalability of internet applications due to cloud has been phenomenal, right? So being able to take an application that's doing so much, right? Let's say you have, for instance, an artificial intelligence platform like ChatGPT, right? It essentially exists in a particular server, right, where someone has put together this complex code. But what that system is able to do is it's able to reach out to all of these different other systems that have other data within them and pull it back into its system. And the reason that's possible is because these systems and all this data is distributed so widely across the internet in these different pockets, which we would pretty much call the cloud. So now, instead of having to rely upon one server or one computer to handle these extremely taxing, from a technological and data perspective and processing perspective, applications, we're basically leveraging the power of other servers around the internet, around the world, to serve these functions that we need them to do for us to, as the end user, experience things in the way that we'd like to experience that. So I love the point that McKinsey makes about cloud actually lowering the costs of the scalability of applications and just increasing exactly how much it is that one particular website, for instance, can offer. So in McKinsey's report, they touch on IoT, the Internet of Things, and they made a really important point about this enabling trust in the financial world, right? So when you look at data in finance, it's extremely important. You know, as we go online and, for instance, I'm applying for a credit card or something, right? And the credit bureaus have all of this information that exists online in the database, right? So what we can use the Internet of Things to do is to really enhance, right, the way that we look at financial applications. How do we enrich, right, our processes with data that's coming from things that are occurring in the real world? So I think there's a bright future ahead for credit scoring, specifically on how do I take these alternative methods, right, or being able to look at someone's actual activity in the real world, right, to be able to judge or supplement, at least, right, what it is that I'm building out of a credit profile for this individual. There's also a lot of risk in this, right? And if we look at what's happening around the world, there's definitely been systems that may not align with how we look at our values as individuals within a society on how we want technology to play a role and how we get access to services such as credit and money and things like that. But there's also an opportunity to really, once again, supplement what's happening with real world information. So for instance, if I'm a farmer and I have a crop that is growing, right? If I can have an Internet of Things sensor, right, that's able to potentially monitor in one way or another, whether it's by just the weather alone, how my crop is doing, right, then maybe that will supplement whether or not I'm able to get a loan, right, to be able to continue to grow and scale my operations or pay cash flows that I need to pay within my business, right? So that's a very specific example of like, all right, there's something that's happening in the real world. We can use a sensor, an IoT sensor, to give information about what's happening there. And that can actually improve the way that we're accessing and interacting with finance and money. One thing that McKinsey doesn't particularly touch on within what they have is this report about financial technology is a concept that is flying under the radar right now. And it's very fun because there's a lot of people that are working very diligently on the process and the concept of quantum computing. Now, today we have cryptographic standards that govern communication over the internet. One of the main cryptographic standards is RSA, and the three letters just stand for the names of three individuals that came up with this standard. And another standard would be elliptical curve cryptography, which I believe is a little bit older. And I could be wrong about that. But RSA has been one of the NIST standards for quite some time around cryptography. Now, as we move forward, quantum computing has the potential at a global scale, right? If you see quantum computing being used, really, even if one individual entity decides to take full advantage of the power of a quantum computer, it could pretty much make obsolete all of the cryptography and security standards that we've laid out over the past 20 years or so, right? And so quantum computing being something that isn't being talked about a lot today, and the applications of that in finance are massive. And really, even if from the security perspective of, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of our payments and money are already online. So when we think about the cryptographic standards and the security standards that we have around that money, if that changes, and if any particular entity, right, decides to even make some sort of a nefarious attempt at changing or affecting that security standard, there could be massive implications for what happens to money and all of the other information that exists across the internet. So let's keep our eyes on quantum computing. I don't have any particular data for you there or any points there that I want to dig into too deeply, but I'll say keep your eye on it and look into a little bit more. What are the implications exactly of quantum computing over the internet in general? Okay, so what are some of the most exciting projects that are happening in fintech today? Like, let's look at the practical, what's happening. All right, so Stripe is one of my favorites, and it's one of the biggest. Stripe is a payments processor. I'm sure many of us are familiar with platforms like Shopify, which was my first interaction with understanding what Stripe actually did. Or maybe even Amazon, one of the biggest competitors to a Shopify sort of solution. And obviously, Amazon is a little bit more holistic in their business. But what they have in common, these two platforms, is that they typically interact with this company called Stripe that spent the time to really focus on how to facilitate payments over the internet. And they were one of the first ones to do it, one of the first ones to do it so successfully at scale for businesses across the world. So payments, when I think of Stripe, I think of payment processing everywhere the internet is, right? So when you're paying for something with a credit card over the internet, Stripe is likely to be involved in the actual processing of that payment. They're communicating with your credit networks, they're communicating with your banks, and they're settling payments and allowing businesses to accept those payments and get those payments transferred into their bank accounts in a very smooth and effective manner. The next biggest company that is really innovative and really changing so many business models over the internet in recent time has been Plaid. And many of us have interacted with Plaid and we've had no idea that we've done it. And Plaid's a rather new company, mind you. But what they've done is they've allowed a lot of the financial technology and banking, digital banking systems to be connected in a very seamless manner. So when you log into your online brokerage, let's say it's TD Ameritrade or even Robinhood is very familiar to many. When you're logging into these websites, you're creating your account and you need to transfer money from your bank account into one of these systems. What's happening? How do you do this? Well, what's happening and what you can do actually is you can usually nowadays just say, oh, I'm going to click to log into my Chase account or log into my Bank of America account or whatever account, right? That's common. And what this is this is actually Plaid in the background connecting your banking information to these digital applications that are now able to very seamlessly take money from your bank account and put it into their bank account and into their online application in a very seamless manner, right? So Plaid has played a very fundamental role in basically breaking down the barriers for connecting bank accounts to digital applications. Massive. What happened was, I believe it was 2020 or so, MasterCard, Visa was keen to what Plaid was doing, and they said, hey, we'd love to buy this company. And when you think about how important Plaid is to the future of online applications and financial technology, being able to really use your bank account seamlessly across the internet, Plaid plays a really important role in that. And so Visa, right, as the company that already has that very deep relationship with the bank and with the individuals that are so used to just using their credit cards to pay for things, for Visa to own a company like Plaid, that would be massive and groundbreaking and would potentially be, according to the Department of Justice, not good for the American people. Because when Visa tried to acquire Plaid for about, I think it was $3.4 billion in 2020, the Department of Justice said this is not okay. They didn't like it. They felt that they went into an antitrust sort of situation about this and took them to court, and they blocked this merger from happening. And that was a very pivotal moment in looking at fintech today and what's happening, because Plaid, right, for it to have such implications for a company like Visa to acquire that company, that shows really where we have to be very careful and just thoughtful about, where are the incentives and what exactly is happening in fintech that a platform like Plaid, who's also in control of a lot of the data that's running through each individual bank account that they're connecting someone's application to, right? What are the implications of that inside of the rest of the banking networks and these different credit networks and things like that? So Plaid is huge. Another big company that's changing a lot of things, and this is going to take us deeper into the digital currency sort of route, is a company called Ripple Labs. Now, Ripple Labs is a software company that's based in San Francisco, California. They have branches in DC and I believe in New York as well. And what they're doing is they are essentially helping international banks send money across the internet, across borders in a much more seamless manner using internet and the optionality of using blockchain technology in the background. So I look at Stripe, I say it's payments everywhere on the internet. I look at Plaid, I say it's banking and banking data everywhere on the internet. And I look at Ripple and I say it's currency, natively everywhere on the internet. Being able to settle your payments instantly across borders at relatively cheap prices. And that is what Ripple is doing. And they're specifically addressing also the nostro vostro concept that I brought up earlier. And they're the reason that I've really spent any time looking into what is a nostro vostro account. There's $7 trillion or so that are just sitting, right, for international transfers because of the risk of currency fluctuations, right, that happen in the time that someone needs to send money across borders. All right. So I'm gonna just go into what I think is really the largest theme in fintech, which is tokenization. I spent more time talking about the history than I really meant to and giving background than I meant to. But I think what's really important is tokenization, all right? Distributed ledger technology versus blockchain is where I'm going to start, all right? Blockchain is a very specific, once again, type of distributed ledger technology that is extremely linear. You have block that happens after block that contains information that links back to the previous block and that continues down a line in a very linear sequence. Now, distributed ledger technology is a little bit more broad, right? So if we can have a database anywhere in the world that anyone can kind of tap into and use and make additions to, or even just the different ways in which we're able to use a blockchain, right? So when I talk about blockchain, I talk about blockchain 1.0 was Bitcoin blockchain. Distributed ledger technology 2.0 would be things like smart contracts and what you saw happening with Ethereum. And then I say distributed ledger technology 3.0 would be the concept of a decentralized oracle. So Citibank actually released a report in March of 2023, just a month ago, about tokenization and the future of that. They imagine that there will be $4 trillion of value that exists in tokenized systems by 2030. When they talk about this, they talk about distributed ledger technology versus blockchain, and they've delineated this very well. And I'm very proud to see Citibank at the level of awareness of what's happening to really have made that delineation. So when we look at, once again, what's happening with tokenization, it's not just about currency, all right? But we do have tokenized money, all right? Now I've got a dollar, or excuse me, any sort of a currency that exists in a native network. I can transfer that currency across that network, and it's native to the internet. Anyone who has access to the internet can natively access this money, all right? Now we have tokenized data, all right? So that money can actually move with a message, for instance, all right? And that message could be, oh, this is Dr. Eric Kelly III. He is in a specific location and his bank account currently has this much. So when you make that transfer, this is what's happening. This is the metadata behind that transaction. Tokenized identity. So this is Dr. Eric Kelly III. Who is Dr. Eric Kelly III? Dr. Eric Kelly III is a doctor, right? He has a doctorate degree. He has a professional degree before that, and he has a bachelor's degree, right? So being able to identify who this individual is, what are the different attributes that make up that person's identity, maybe someone's age, maybe someone's gender, or maybe other things that allow you to get a better picture of who this individual is. And now you can use that across, once again, a specific network to transfer assets, transfer money, transfer information natively to that network with or without this metadata attached, and having that be open and something that everyone can kind of view and things of that nature. That's blockchain. That's distributed ledger technology. Another concept that I think is super interesting is the idea of tokenized functionality. And what's the point of tokenizing, by the way? Because I've kind of skipped over that. Tokenization can allow us to, first off, potentially put a value on these different things that I've just described in a more effective manner. What is the value of someone's data? What is the value of someone's identity being shared across the network? And then when I come into this concept of a tokenized functionality, what is the value of a function that a particular server or computer is offering to the internet? Imagine, right? You're able to take ChatGPT and a specific function that it does and actively trade or use the value of that openly in the internet, right? So if I could see the value of a particular function of an application over the internet, and I could allocate resources potentially to that function, to improving that function and making it better, right? That has massive implications for things like artificial intelligence, where if we can tell it what we want it to do and what's providing value to the internet, then we can very quickly incentivize work on those specific functions and allocating more resources to those functions. So the idea of tokenization, being able to measure the value of something across the internet, being able to do that in a fractionalized manner as well. So say you've tokenized a stock, all right? I can now own a piece of a little tiny fraction of a stock down to the 18th decimal point on a specific platform in which this stock has been tokenized. So liquidity, as well as the issuer, I can get every single little fraction, every little penny that someone may want to invest into a company, into an asset, things of that nature. So those are some of the concepts of tokenization, what you may be able to do with it. I'm moving forward. Central bank digital currencies are a very important aspect of what's happening in tokenization. You've got about 86% of banks around the world that are actively researching this. I digress.
Thank you so much. I mean, the information has just been phenomenal. I've learned so much. I'm a university professor. I got 3 pads with 20 different terms on it, cross-border payments, robo-advising. It just goes on, fintech, on and on. You are phenomenal. How can the people listening contact you?
Yes, so follow me on Twitter. I am on Twitter at Keith, KeithDLT. Keith DLT on Twitter. And please connect with me on LinkedIn. There's not much I like more than connecting with people on LinkedIn. And my name there is Keith D. Smith III. Don't forget the third. I got a really basic name. And then definitely feel free to reach out to me via email. I really would love to connect with anyone that's listening to this and to chat more and to hear about if there's any ways to collaborate. My email is keithdmedia@gmail.com. And subscribe to my podcast on YouTube. It's called Cash Rules Podcast. We specifically talk about financial literacy, making sure that people from all different kinds of backgrounds can learn more about finance.
That's phenomenal. I'm going to reach out. Genius, I will see you on the other side.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
The Black Business Expo's mission is to raise funds for high school seniors going to college or K through 12 entrepreneurs. This expo is a fundraiser for students. Please, you may go to www.blackbusinessexpousa.com to donate to the scholarship fund or use the Cash App at $BBX USA. Our goal is to give laptops and up to $5,000 to 10 students. Students can register online at www.blackbusinessexpousa.com. Every dollar counts. Please donate to the Black Business Expo USA Scholarship Fund.